Welcome to I Choose Happy, presented by The Comfy. I'm Marilyn Byrne. On the show today, Jonah Rosas, a kid who grew up in a tight-knit community full of energy, curiosity, and a love for sports and friends. But in middle school, Jonah began noticing symptoms that didn't add up: shortness of breath, night sweats, and a fatigue no healthy 13-year-old should have. What followed were scans, biopsies, and weeks of uncertainty, a journey that would change his life forever.
It was really almost like a hand wave is what it felt like when I was initially being treated, which is sad and disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
There was an initial X-ray where there was an irregular sort of mass in my lung that my primary physician thought, oh, this is some sort of phlegm buildup. And it really was not until I was at a volleyball game, unable to breathe, that I was sent to the emergency room, got another X-ray, and it was then where the technician came in and said, "You can't leave. You need to go directly to the children's hospital. There's something wrong." And that was sort of the moment where it all kind of like began.
Wow. Was your parent with you? Mom, dad?
Yeah, it was me and my mom. And it was that moment where you see a parent realizing that their child is sick in a way that no parent ever wants to see. And so it was from there we started that journey together.
Wow. Do you remember what was going through your mind as a young, were you 13 or 14 at the time? Do you remember?
Yeah, it would have been right about 13.
Okay. What does a 13-year-old think when they hear the words, "you have cancer"?
It's almost like disbelief. I think at any age, but at 13, you still lack that perspective of, the beautiful life that you have lived and are going to live. And so all I remember is really just that anger and frustration and that nagging question of why me? Why did it have to be now? What did I do? And it took me a lot of time to like sit with that question and move past that angry, that non-productive madness almost.
And this was in 2010.
Yes, yeah, 2010.
Okay. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2010, and I just think it's so interesting thinking about the difference in age. I was 40 at the time, and you're 13. And I can't imagine, like you said, a 13-year-old's not really understanding the gravity of what's to come. What does treatment look like? So I'm just sort of empathizing right now with you because it was hard enough as a 40-year-old to grasp all of that. And I felt young, very young. And here you are, 13 years old. Do you think that's why you sort of felt dismissed a little bit with that initial X-ray that he's 13, this has got to be something else? I mean, do you feel like that was part of it?
I think that is part of it, right? That we often think youth is wellness, and through that, I think there's that loss of holistic approaching to a diagnosis that maybe contributed.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? What were the next steps? So did you go into treatment right away?
From the time I got that X-ray and that X-ray technician came in and told us I could not leave, I was in the hospital for 14 continuous days, getting biopsies, CT scans, the full gambit to figure out the extent to which this cancer, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, but the extent to which this lymphoma had spread, whether or not it was still local, and what the treatment strategy was going to be. And then I immediately started my first round of chemotherapy. And that was the summer before high school. So as I was
Oh,
transitioning to being a high schooler,
mm-hmm.
um, my full summer was in the hospital, which was completely a different and unique experience.
Right. Had it stayed local or had it metastasized?
It had thankfully stayed local,
Okay,
which
good.
was a blessing.
Hell, you mentioned volleyball. So you're a volleyball player?
I was in eighth grade.
Okay.
I will not say that I was good, but I did play.
Okay. Hey, you showed up. It's a
Yes,
big deal.
exactly.
What was life like for you as a kid? Tell us a little bit about your home life, about school, in elementary school, and tell us what life was like for you before the diagnosis.
Yeah, so I was a very avid Boy Scout. I loved to swim and play water polo competitively, so I
Mm.
did so much of that year round.
Uh,
And that was really an area that I had so many fond like childhood memories of sitting at a swim meet for hours underneath an awning with my friends, just eating snacks and then jumping into the pool to race.
Good
And
memories.
yeah, wonderful
Hmm.
memories. And then spending so much time out in the national parks of California.
Mm.
And being in this greater scouting community that I think gave me so many of just like the basic like social interaction skills that
Hmm.
have helped me throughout life.
Yeah.
But I was kind of just going day by day as a kid.
Right.
Um, it felt
Right.
like every activity was like the penultimate thing. There was a water polo match coming up. That was the focus of my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, and it, yeah, generally was just a very lighthearted
Kind of
day to day life.
innocent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about home life? Mom, dad, siblings?
Yeah, so I grew up in a single parent household, a
Okay.
wonderful mom, the
Oh,
most supportive mom I could have ever asked for,
beautiful.
and a brother who lives up in San Francisco now. Family as a through illness, really kind of deeply strengthened our like nuclear family.
Okay. So let me get you back to treatment.
Mhm.
What kind of symptoms, what kind of treatment and symptoms, and just kind of talk us through that summer between eighth grade and freshman year?
So let me think back. So
Hmm.
I went through 3 rounds of chemotherapy. And after the first round, where I had those days of nausea and vomiting and body aching, um, we figured out that my chemotherapy regimen could be administered at night as I
Oh.
went to bed. And so the really incredible nurses at Children's Hospital in the Central Valley were super accommodating to help me figure out what the best administration
Hmm.
times would be so that I wasn't sick. Sick as in like nauseous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something
Um,
you could maybe sleep through part of that.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And it completely kind of changed those 3 rounds of chemotherapy for me. Um, and really was just like a sigh of relief.
Mm.
And I remember really vividly the at-home nurses who would come in between my inpatient stays,
Mhm.
being some of the kindest and most incredible people who I have had the privilege of meeting. And when I think about healthcare professionals who make a difference and really
Mhm.
make a patient feel seen, the two home nurses who came to help us and answered all of our questions were just lifesavers.
Mm.
Really wonderful. Really, really wonderful.
Nurses are the best, aren't they? I mean,
Hmm.
I had the same experience. I will be forever grateful for the care that I received in and out of the hospital as well. And I know that that can leave such a lasting imprint, an indelible imprint on your mind and in your heart
Hmm.
when you have somebody who's in the know, who can nourish and nurture and make you feel safe. Because I'm sure there were moments where you felt pretty scared.
Yes. And just to feel seen in that fear as well,
Mhm,
for
mhm.
someone to be there to say, I know this feels so overwhelming, but I am going to be here to walk you through it.
Mm.
It just changes. change
Mm,
his treatment.
that's amazing. Did you have moments where you thought I could die?
I didn't ever, I think, really process that. And I think it
Mhm,
goes back to that invincibility you feel as a young person,
mhm,
that I never really understood it. But when I looked into the faces of my family members who came to visit, it there was something that was behind their eyes that I could tell was really weighing, and
mm.
I knew it had something to do with my frailty.
That is poignant because I can't imagine as a mother, aunt, grandmother, um, watching this precious person in their life that they're all there to take care of. Did you feel some of the weight not wanting to maybe worry your mom, kind of carrying that even as a young person?
Absolutely. Um, I think there was that daily pressure of, not even that anyone said, but that I just put upon myself to make them feel okay, that
Mhm.
that I was okay, that it was okay for them to take a breath. And
Did you
in
use
a
humor or do you remember what you did or how you think you probably alleviated that some for them?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a trait of my family to use humor to diffuse really difficult, sad, uncomfortable
Yeah.
situations. And so I remember always trying to bring some sort of levity to the
Yeah.
room. Um, and that was the way in which I tried to communicate, oh, this isn't a big deal. I'm gonna be fine. Like, this is just a couple weeks down. Like, we'll be good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there was that feeling of worry that when I saw those looks of discomfort and fear, that
Mhm.
I felt I need to reassure them
Yeah.
that it's going to be okay,
Yeah.
even if I don't know.
My husband and I used to talk about the puppy dog eyes, people who just kind of come and and they just
Yes.
lean in and look like, "Oh, I just want you to be well," and being so worried that I find it interesting because humor was a big part of my journey too, even in some of the darkest moments. I think it was natural to definitely want everyone else to feel okay. And I think it's an interesting thing, even as a 13-year-old, that you had that wherewithal and you had that instinct to try to let everybody know, you're going to be okay. And it seems like that's how you felt inside, that was a truism, or that was your reality that you were going to be okay.
Yeah, and maybe a part of it was in doing that, I didn't have to acknowledge an alternative where
Hmm.
maybe I wasn't going to be okay,
Hmm.
or I was
Hmm.
really struggling. And so I think for me too, it helped.
Yeah. Was there a pivotal point or a moment of clarity where survival and science merged for you?
Yeah, I think it was really my first year in college.
Mm,
And I remember always being scientifically motivated. I was always very good in the physical and biological sciences. But it wasn't until I took my first really introductory biology class in college and then followed up on it to join a research lab that
mm,
I realized, oh, I love studying cancer. It's not
interesting.
just that I have this personal connection that's kind of pulling me towards this area of research, but it's also fascinating on a fundamental
Mm.
level.
Can we go back for just a second and let our listeners know that you were awarded in high school the Bill Gates Academic Scholarship? Is that
Yeah, so it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Gates Millennium Scholarship, which is like
yes?
a
But
long
essentially,
scholarship.
essentially, it means you could pick the school of your choice and you had a full scholarship to go to that school, and you chose Hopkins in Baltimore, correct?
Yep, Johns Hopkins University. And it not only, and I'm internally grateful for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for this opportunity because it allowed me to not only pursue my undergraduate training, but it provided 10 years of training. So it paid for my master's and it paid for my PhD. And so it unlocked doors that I never imagined that I would be walking through.
Yeah. And
It's
what does
such
it
a
say? What does it say about you, though, that you were able to achieve this going through cancer? I mean, that you went through something so big. Can you put words to how you did that?
You know what it actually gave me that I was so surprised with was whenever something in life got really difficult, I thought back to what I overcame
Mm,
and how challenging treatment was, that I always had it in myself to say, you have done more challenging things than this, and
mm.
you can get through this. Because anything short of what you've gone through is overcomable.
So basically, it put the perspective, it gave you the perspective that, hey, I've been through harder. I used to tell the kids that fear was thinking something's coming down the pike that you can't handle. And the truth is, we can handle whatever comes, and we may not handle it gracefully every time or beautifully every time. I mean, sometimes it's, we could be on shaky ground, but we know that we do have 100% track record for overcoming because we're here today. And,
Exactly.
and I think knowing that, and I think cancer, for me, definitely showed me my own strength. It showed me what my marriage was made of. It showed me what my kids were made of, my family. So there's a gift in that. Would
I
you agree?
absolutely agree. I
Okay.
absolutely agree. It tests those bonds in a way that a lot of experiences, I think, in life do not test those bonds.
Mhm.
And those that stay are fortified by it.
Mm, that's a great way of saying it. And I think cancer, it was one of those things where I thought, boy, and it gives you so many opportunities to overcome because
Mhm.
it's every week of treatment, or that here it comes again, or now we're into radiation, or now we're into surgery. And I think there were so many steps that I had to turn right into that fear and say, okay, I'm going to tackle this one next. And I'm going to and you can't get down the rabbit hole. You can't go down too far down the road. You have to, I think, stay as present as possible with each moment.
You're absolutely right. And I remember starting radiation during orientation week
Mm.
of high school. And while everyone was figuring out their schedules, I was getting the mesh netting fitted to hold my head in place while they were administering my therapy.
Uh, how tough. What a time. What a time. And especially when you're wanting to get that start to high school, fresh and coming out of eighth grade, and it's kind of a nerve-wracking time because now you're, kind of low man again, starting this rise in high school, and you want to
Mhm.
come in, you know, as strong as can be. Did you feel like that made you seem different to everybody or to yourself? Did you have thoughts like that?
I really did. And it was so present because I started high school completely bald.
Mm,
And I remember it was the first day of school, and my oncologist had given me this Stanford cap. And it was one of my favorite caps. Um, and I was sitting in the second row of my math class, and the teacher came over and was like, you need to take off that hat now.
mm.
And it immediately reminded me that I was very much still in treatment and I was very different in where my life was compared to my classmates. And it kind of rattled me.
Yeah, that'd be
And
jarring. Did the
yeah,
teacher understand when she took the hat off that
She
Was there
didn't
compassion
know.
there, or was after he saw what happened or what was under your cap?
It
Did
wasn't
he?
until my my mama bear came.
That's what I was waiting. That's what I figured
Mhm.
was coming next. I
Came
could
and called the
understand that.
principal, and that principal marched into the class and gave
Good.
me a hat from the school. So it was a Buchanan Bears hat that I was carte blanche approved to wear anywhere on campus at all times.
All right. All right. Good move by the your
Yeah.
mom and the principal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you get this scholarship and you've moved on to Hopkins and you're in that first biology class. What was the spark there? What did you think? How did you kind of go, now I know where I'm heading?
So it was the moment, less in a classic lecture, but more when I was looking through the lens of a microscope
Mm.
and watching cancer cells move in real life.
Oh, wow.
That is where I was fully taken into this microscopic world.
Wow. Was
And
there was
since
there a moment where you thought they're more powerful than you understood or they're less powerful than you understood?
I think it was really a jarring, we understand so little about this and
Mm,
think we have it solved. That really made me dive in and say
mm.
I could spend the rest of my life untangling this mystery and contributing to how we understand.
Wow. And you had that motivation and I'm sure a hook or an anchor that was so deep inside of you. Did you feel like that was being called forth at that time
Yeah,
too?
I really did. And I even remember early, struggles I had in my research career where uh, more senior scientists who I worked with had told me that I was not made for science and research.
Huh.
And I remember saying, I'm going to prove you wrong because I can do this
Mm.
because
Did
I've
you
done
feel
really
like
hard things.
did you have the science bug as a kid?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was always very excited about science. And I was just telling my aunt the other day, actually, I was remembering this childhood experience I had where I was, and it's kind of bleak actually, but I would go with a little jar and I would catch little bees, little ground bees, and add flowers to this jar and leaves and sprinkle water in and then seal it up, poke holes in it, and then leave it in the sun and hope that I could make my own ecosystem. And I'd come back hours later, not realizing that they had baked,
Ah,
and think, oh, this time it failed. I have the wrong combination of flowers, not enough grass, and I would retry. And so the scientific method has been something that I've followed from a very young age.
yeah.
Um, Even
All
though
the way through.
yeah, those
Even
early
those ex-
experiments were a little dark.
Yeah, but you got to learn through failure too, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Now we
Over.
save the bees.
Okay, that's right. That's right for sure. So tell us in layman's terms. I know this is going to be hard but like I'm a 6-year old.
Mhm.
What is it that your focus is? Now you have your PhD
Yes.
in what and tell us what it means in the cancer world so we can understand.
So I have my PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology.
Mm,
And my work has always really been inspired by studying how cells move and how they coordinate behavior. And so, one of the really foundational discoveries that I made as a graduate student was that cancer cells that we take directly from a patient exhibit really unique collective behaviors. So
hmm,
they're able to overcome really challenging environments where healthy tissue can't. And one of the big questions that I've always been excited about is how do tumors create this permissive environment that's bad for healthy tissue, but really advantageous for cancer cells to grow in.
Interesting. And you're saying it's different from person to person, that
Person to
it's
person, but within tissue too. So a
mm,
good example is when you think about like a breast self exam, one of the
mhm,
ways you can find a lump is because it's stiffer, right? You can
mhm.
discern it from the surrounding tissue.
That's how I found mine.
Yeah, an
Mhm,
invaluable approach for early diagnosis, but also that physical difference is due to a completely different environment within the tissue that the
huh,
tumors create. And my work suggests that that environment is really essential for basically tilting the scales from healthy kind of takeover, healthy cells being
mhm,
great to survive, and cancer cells
mm.
expanding.
Is this a breakthrough?
So I think it's exciting, but it's something that we've appreciated across different cancers.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just among the first to identify that it could actually influence how cancer cells behave as a group.
Okay. What breakthrough are you hoping to discover?
Yeah, so my work now here in New York is really focused on how we can engineer immune cell therapies to
Mm.
overcome those new physically distinct environments.
And this
How
really
we
is the wave. This is really what's been going on and the wave of the future. And maybe not for all cancers right now, but are you hoping it will be for all cancer?
I really hope that we can take this idea that the physical environment plays a really
Hmm.
important role in governing how therapies are effective or ineffective, and how we can use it to better inform how we're designing new classes of therapy.
Okay. And what's next in the research for you? Like, what is, your day to day, your day to day motivation or purpose um, to study something, and what does it look like in a patient down the road? How would that
Yeah.
affect them in a positive way?
So my work is really foundational, right? Like what
Okay.
on a cell level is governing how cells respond and perceive their environment.
Mhm.
And it is really decades from being fully integrated into therapies.
Mm,
But it's one of those essential components of discovery science that
mhm.
allows us to leap forward to
Wow.
understand, oh, this is actually therapeutically relevant. Like if we never really deeply appreciated how one cell divides and becomes two, we could never use that understanding to design therapies to target rapid division. And
Mm,
so, one of the beauties of foundational discovery science is that you never know where that rabbit hole is going to pop up
mhm.
and how it's going to be taken to really improve the patient's lives. But my
Well,
area is this new kind of branch of biology that mechanics is really essential. And it's been within the last decade that we started really caring.
will AI have a role in all of this?
I think that is the $1 million question. I think what we're seeing is AI is now helping us diagnose patients more effectively.
Mhm.
It is
More
helping us
accurately?
more
Mhm.
accurately. It is enabling us to make discoveries across tissues like the lung, the breast, the pancreas, the liver, that previously was really impossible to connect the dots between just
Mm,
because of the magnitude of data that we collect. It's allowing us to see details in imaging that we've never been able to see before. So I think AI is really going to be assistive in this next generation of disease biology and research.
What, thus far has been the most exciting thing you've seen in the lab?
Oh, so I think the really cool technology that has come online in the last decade are these systems that are called organoids. And they're basically mini organs that you take a piece of patient tissue and you grow it up in a dish and it
Mm.
forms a miniaturized organ and it
So is it like
maintains.
cloning? Is it a form of cloning in a way?
So cloning is pretty different. So it's
Okay.
more like a 3D stem cell based
Mm.
culture
Okay.
approach where,
Okay.
and I could show you a bazillion movies of them, where basically this clump of cells will form a complex structure that mimics the geometries that we see in the body. And
Mm.
so it gives us this little lens to look at how different chemotherapeutic regimens affect
Mm.
cancer cells.
Yeah.
And for me, it allows us to look at the emergent collective properties that these cancer cells exhibit that have never been used as kind of diagnostic approaches.
Yeah. It sounds like, I remember in 2010 when I was diagnosed, um, I went through 20 rounds of chemo and, 6 weeks of radiation and, double mastectomy and the whole thing. Um, I now am a volunteer patient navigator at our local hospital. And I find it so interesting how in 15 years, how much more these therapies are targeted. So it sounds like these experiments are what's leading to this being able to figure out, okay, this is going to work best on a pancreas. This is what's going to work best in
Mhm.
the breast. Okay. Am I on to it?
You've distilled down one of the really key aspects of where I hope my discoveries lead us. If we
Hmm.
can understand the unique signature of what makes a cancer cell behave as a group in this way, can we target it? Can we use it to really improve patient outcomes?
Okay. Okay. I have a question too about, you know, your day to day work is intense and it's really important and it probably could be pretty heavy at times. What do you do for yourself today to stay grounded in your work and, on the human side of things?
I love stopping into a cafe to get coffee. That is one of the little indulgences of life that I do not take for granted. I also, moving to a totally new city for this next chapter of my life, I get to do things like take an air gondola every day as my commute across the river.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so I get to just stare out and look at New York and look at the skyline. And
Wow.
I've been practicing those moments of being present when they
Uh-huh.
arise, um, and cherishing them for how beautiful they are. Just watching the sunset through the windows right behind my computer. And just beautiful.
Wonderful. How has surviving cancer shaped your outlook on life and on joy and your contribution?
I think having gone through treatment really reshaped how I perceive things as difficult. And I think that's double edged, because sometimes when I listen to friends who are going through a hard time, and when I, go into that mindset of, well, when I compare apples to apples here, this is a little less hard.
Mhm.
So I always have to remind myself to practice that sympathy of,
Mhm.
even it's not a race of who's running to the bottom with the saddest story, um, but it really has given me, I think, a grit that I didn't think I had before.
Mhm.
This ability to roll up my sleeves and get done what needs to get done and get through challenging times, and it's made me really enjoy the time that I have with people. I think that's been the biggest thing for me, because it was the first time where I heard that the time could be running out. And that is something that I always carry. And it's something that it has turned into the way I show care for others
Mhm.
through spending time. And even if it's preparing an elaborate 5-course meal for 3 friends, it's something that I want to do and spend that
And you
time
put your whole
together.
heart into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do
Exactly.
think there's something about maximizing life when
That's it. Yeah.
yeah, when you know the fleetingness of it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And that, being diagnosed gave me that perspective.
Me too. Me too. I totally get that. And I feel when you said that about it's not a race or competition, you do hear people say that, my cancer was this and that. And I even around cancer sometimes and I think people want to be heard and understood that they're going through something scary. But it's so important to remember it's not a race. It's not a competition. We're all going through something in life. And I think what you've shown us today is this, the arc of your life, having this diagnosis so early on, it seems like, uh, you holding this perspective, even if you weren't aware of it at the age of 13, you
Hmm.
grew into it.
Yeah, I did. I did. I think I really did and took the positive lessons from that experience and let them guide my growth.
Who taught you that?
I don't know. I really I really could not tell you. It when it comes to choosing being angry about it having happened
Uh-huh.
and living it, living through it and growing from it, it just felt like the only route that maximized my life.
Mhm. Mhm. That is beautifully said. Tell me about how it feels to come full circle from patient to researcher, from survivor to change maker.
Wow, that's a beautiful question. It really feels at times doing research can feel quite disconnected because we get so foundational and in the weeds. Um, but then I step back to think about how grateful I am that people were doing that research decades before I was diagnosed, and how it was through those iterative steps of discovery that I'm here today.
Mm,
And so it brings me a lot of comfort to know that I got to be on the receiving end of that pipeline. And
mhm,
now, there may be people whose names I never know, but are helped by what I put out into the world.
mm.
And that brings me a lot of joy to think about.
And I could understand that maybe whether you're thinking back on the ones who came before you, paving the way, and now the ones that will benefit from your work, that it all comes down to gratitude.
Yes, yeah. It really does to be acknowledging and thankful of that foundation that was laid and that helped my survival. Um, and that maybe one day my work will be pulled from to develop a new class of therapies.
Mm. Could you complete the sentence, I choose happy because?
Life's too short not to choose happy.
Could you elaborate on that?
I think that there is so much in the world when you look for it to get joy from.
Mm,
As simple as how great your cup of coffee tastes, that it is fleeting the time we have here and the time we
mm,
have together, that I choose to pick my mindset in this life and take with it all of the positive, joyous moments and experience the hardship and live through it, but take the lessons and spread a little bit more joy.
mm. What do you say to the person, maybe a young 13-year-old boy, or maybe someone of any age who's in the thick of it right now, in that, one moment at a time, step at a time through treatment, the rigors of treatment? What do you say to them?
I think the one of the aspects that I really maybe wanted was to hear that it is okay for you to have a really bad day, a really bad week, and not bring joy, to not bring levity. And it is okay for you to be angry that this is happening. Um, But there are so many people in your camp who are cheering for you that this is a moment in time that on the other end, there are many decades of joy waiting for you.
Mm. And it's okay to let them carry that for a while you need the break.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as a researcher today, w- knowing what you see, I mean, it's so hard to to begin to understand your perspective on cancer now. Are there words of hope you could give to all of us out here about what that future could look like around the
I
cancer space?
Yeah, I think that there are so many brilliant and talented scientists who are attacking and understanding cancer better and better day in and day out, that I am really optimistic that cancer will become a managed disease in our lifetimes. That it will not be a death sentence, but it will be a managed kind of chronic illness.
And that was Jonah Rosas. From facing cancer as a young teen to earning his PhD and now dedicating his life to cancer research. Jonah's journey is a powerful reminder of how resilience and determination can turn even the hardest challenges into purpose. If his story moved you, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the I Choose Happy Facebook group to continue the conversation. I'm Marilyn Byrne. We'll see you next week on I Choose Happy, presented by The Comfy.